So, why is Chainsaw Man so popular? Like many of you, I'm fairly new to the series, and I personally decided to pick up the manga before the anime drops because I was sold on it by a friend. I'm not even kidding. The way she talked about it like a TV toy ad aimed at a child sold me more than anything I've ever decided to partake in. But I digress. After reading the first chapter, it's clear as to why the series is getting so much attention. Aside from the untraditional naming of the series alone, literally sounding like a horror film from the 80s, it's clear that the series is just different. As you all know, when shows try to be different, it can either go extremely well, like when Attack on Titan released in 2013 and became a literal spectacle of the ages, or you can end up with something like this. By the way, don't hate me, I'm actually a major fan of the Promised Neverland manga, just wish they stuck to the script. But to get back to the topic of the video, starting out with chapter 1, it's clear you're going to be in for a ride with this series as we're met with the main character literally stating off several body parts he sold off, including his kidney, that's a pretty tame one, his right eye, and one of his, He did all of this to pay off a debt, and sacrificing all of that, you would think he would be close. I mean, those are some pretty vital parts, if you know what I'm saying. But you quickly find out his remaining debt is kind of crazy. 38,040,000 yen.
Nice.
For those of you unfamiliar with currency conversion, that is a whopping 288,280.44 cents in US dollars.
Nice.
And in case I forgot to mention, he's also just a kid. On the next page, after stating to his dog that unsurprisingly has a chainsaw for a nose, that it's time to go kill something, we're met with a creature that looks like it came straight out of someone's worst nightmare or Shao Tucker's most peaceful dream. I mean, it literally looks like a tomato fused with several human hands, and as disturbing as it looks, these creatures also has a fitting name. They're referred to as devils, and you can clearly see why. It's honestly kind of odd because aside from this, our main character Denji and his chainsaw dog companion live relatively normal lives, giving some relatability to the readers like you and I. Aside from his enormous debt, he has bills to pay like a normal individual, and on top of that, he struggles to make ends meet, stating him and his companion can only have a single slice of bread for their one meal. Now, with as unrealistic of a struggle as that sounds, I know that's truly a reality for some people in the real world, and this struggle that he faces is what keeps him grounded in this crazy world that he resides in. The story ends up getting more interesting as we get to dive into his past pretty early on in the first chapter, discovering not only is Denji a kid who is a devil hunter employed by the Yakuza, but that the chainsaw dog companion he has is a devil himself. And to top it off, the debt he is paying back isn't even his, but his father's. This story does what a lot of stories, specifically manga, struggle to do: keep the reader engaged in the world and characters simultaneously early on in the story, let alone the first chapter. Usually stories don't go deep enough to the point where we know next to nothing about the world and characters who inhabit it, or you get so much exposition to the point where you forget what you even read on a page beforehand, literally giving you the feeling of sitting in an hour college lecture about a topic you care next to nothing about. But Chainsaw Man finds a good balance in between, letting you know exactly who Denji is, what his early goal is, and why he's in the predicament he's in. As we discover more about the crazy world Denji lives in, we see how normal his desires are. He's a kid who inhabits a world full of crazy monstrosities, that he himself fights to pay off a debt of his deceased father, and one thing he wants before he dies is just to hug a girl. It sounds ridiculous, but when you consider his age, it's actually quite understandable why he feels what he does. He is in his early adolescence, and despite all of the hardships he's faced, he doesn't wish for anything grandiose, and honestly, that's okay. It really reminds me of Ichigo from Bleach, and that's one reason I feel like people like this character so much, because in a world where everything around you seems to be beyond you, you yourself are relatively a normal person with normal human desires. He wants a girl to care for him, he wants to jam on his bread, he wants to play video games, and he wants to fall asleep in a girl's arms. That's not to say wanting something that would seem impossible for you or just out of reach is a bad thing. It's actually admirable, but the reality of it is that everyone doesn't have to desire to be the greatest in the room, let alone the planet. But we still enjoy shows like Naruto, where a kid who didn't have anything or anyone from his early childhood and attested by everyone around him, to the point of quite literally being ostracized from his village in which he was born, but against all odds rises to the top and becomes the most important figure in not only his village but the world. Probably not, because that's not what defines his character. And to write someone like that is okay. But this is just as good because just as everyone loves the underdog story, people also crave simplicity because the majority of people are, believe it or not, average. And just as Naruto inspires people to try to fight against all odds to attain what you want no matter the odds stacked against you, a character like Denji shows it's okay to not want to chase anything grandiose. Like if he were to change his desire, that would be okay too. But just as chasing something great shouldn't be forced upon you, it also shouldn't be forced upon a character. It just makes for contrived writing and a forced narrative, and that's what I truly think people appreciate about Denji. Nothing about his character seems to be forced upon him. The way he is just that, the way he is. As the story goes on, we get a shocking twist. So we know Denji kills devils to pay off his debt for his father that took his own life, and he's doing it for people we really wouldn't consider good people. But turns out, betrayal was on his way. It's not like they were loyal or good to Denji to begin with, but still what happens next is still unexpected. Turns out the people who hired Denji to kill devils wants to cultivate the power of devils for themselves, and the main desire for the devil who is speaking to Denji in this moment has to go to kill all devil hunters, and as Denji is stabbed through his torso, we find out that the ones who wanted to have the power of the devils for themselves was tricked themselves. Well, by a devil, turning them into zombie slaves. It would seem pretty obvious that something like that would happen by trusting something literally called a devil, but then you remember that Denji's companion himself is a devil, letting us know in this world that not all devils are bad. It's sort of similar to Demon Slayer in a way, in the sense that not all demons are bad. I mean, look at little cute Nezuko. But I digress. There's a dichotomy in this world, and I'm all for it. This zombie devil shows us it's not a regular villain, that the reason it wants to kill all devil hunters is simple, because devil hunters themselves kill devils like it's nothing, so it's uses revenge. He states devil hunters kill them and dump them in garbage like it's nothing, pretty much saying that devil hunters look at them the same way they look at litter in the street, like trash. And as Denji runs for his life, he doesn't think of anything crazy. As a matter of fact, I really believe what he's thinking in this moment is very normal. That he just wanted a regular life, but simply thinking about it wasn't enough. And as we turn the page, we're met with a grim scene. Denji being stabbed in several places in his body, cut into pieces and thrown in a dumpster, just like as they would do to a devil. After a flashback of showing Denji's care for his devil companion, we come to find out that devils take over dead bodies, and he wanted his companion named Poshita, not sure if I mentioned that before, to live a normal life, and he wants to give his body to Poshita if he were to die. And what do you know, Poshita fuses with the remains of Denji, but not to take over his body, but to give him his life back. And as we come to find out, Poshita truly did love Denji, enough to not make Denji's dreams come true for him, but so Denji could realize his dreams for himself by giving him his life back. As Denji comes back from the brink of death, and as he's about to face off against a horde of zombies that's running after him, he thinks to himself why they wanted to inherit the power of devils, that they've already had so much in their life, and he questions that maybe he's the same, that he should have been happy as long as he had Poshita by his side. But remember what he wanted, guys, just normal things, a normal life. It's not like he asked to be rich, to be the smartest man in the world, or to be the most important figure, but just a normal life. But he comes to the conclusion that everyone dreams of something that is not a bad thing. And as he pulls a newly formed chainsaw lever protruding from his chest, we see exactly why this series is called Chainsaw Man. He transforms into literally a half man, half chainsaw with a crazy mask on his face and a chainsaw protruding from his head and both of his arms, and a gory fight scene I can only compare to Lollipop Chainsaw. And as the onslaught ends, we're met with more peculiar, interesting characters, at least by design. They enter the room to the annihilation of all the devils Denji has massacred, and as he's approached by a woman whose name I don't know yet, she says he isn't a devil or a human, and as she asks him if he's the one who made the scene of dead devils, Denji cries out to be held, and she gives him what looks to truly be a loving embrace, and as he turns back into a normal person, at least for the time being, she tells him he's human, not only fulfilling his desire to be hugged by a girl, who I'm sure isn't quite normal herself, smiling as she walks into a scene full of slaughtered devils, but making Denji actually feel normal by calling him human. We then see his last desire be fulfilled when this woman states who she is and telling him he has two options, to either be killed by her as a devil or to be kept by her as a human. She says she'll give him food if he stays by her side, and as Denji asks what he's gonna have for breakfast, she fulfills his last desire by saying bread with jam. And the last piece of dialogue we get in this chapter is Denji saying, "Would a dream come true?" That was only chapter 1 of Chainsaw Man, and I honestly thought it was truly amazing. Chainsaw Man truly gives readers everything I believe they can ask for. An interesting world, unique character designs, unique characters, good backstories, and characters that aren't quite so normal like our main character himself, with transformations and fight scenes that leave your scream shown in your face. With the way this manga has started, I'm definitely going to be here to enjoy the ride, and I encourage those of you who haven't gave it a chance yet to give it a chance and at least read the first chapter to see how you feel about it. After hearing all the hype surrounding the series, I truly do think it lives up to the hype and gives the statement different is better a meaning, as it's not too outlandish to the point where you can't find something to enjoy from it. And if you don't want to read it, and you're an anime only type of person, well, you're in luck, as the anime for the series is coming out pretty soon in October, and I'm definitely going to be a viewer. Anyway guys, this is why I believe Chainsaw Man to be popular. I truly do believe the series has really good potential to be something remembered as great if it keeps up with the same momentum, and from how everyone talks about it, it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share the video so it can be seen by more people who you also think will enjoy the series. And until next time, I'll see you later.